Wala ka.
Wala akong ano. Ayun.
MJ Diaries live stream.
Kamaingay. Naririnig ba ako? Ay, nako. Hello. Sino yung mga naka-live sa YouTube? Naririnig nyo ba ako? Hindi ko alam kung tama yung ginawa ko. Naririnig ba yung boses ko? Sorry naman.
Ma'am, naririnig ko.
Pati sa YouTube? Pati ba sa YouTube naririnig?
Sa Gmail po, ma'am, naka-mute ka po.
Saan? Saan? Sa Gmeet? Nakamute ako. Wait ha. Nakamute. Ah, okay. Pero sa YouTube, naririnig ako.
Opo, naririnig po.
Okay. Tsaka nakikita niyo ako. Tapos, kung nag-present ako ng screen, nakikita niyo ba sa YouTube? For example, ito. Kung sa YouTube kung nag-present kasi ako ng screen. So, for example, tong PowerPoint na to. Nakikita nyo ba sa YouTube yung PowerPoint na to or hindi? Testing lang.
Hindi po, ma'am.
Ah, hindi. Sige, wait lang. Teka lang profile. Ayan, nakikita na ba sa YouTube? Yung pinipresent kong screen? Nakikita na, no?
Ayan, nakikita na ba sa YouTube?
Okay, sige. Sensya na kasi nawalan ako ng wifi and nagkaroon ako ng technical difficulty. So, nag-research lang ako. Pwede pala sa Google Meet kasi natin, hindi siya pwedeng mag-live unless parang may bayad yata yung school. So, naka-free package lang ata. So, ang ginawa ko, nag-research ako, load ko to. Yung OBS na to. So, parang virtual camera siya. So, kahit anong streaming yata pwede mong ma-live. Kahit Zoom, StreamYard, Google Meet. So, yun yung nangyayari kanina. Okay, sige. Wait na lang tayo sa iba. And then, isi-send ko pala yung link sa YouTube. Yung live. At least next time, alam na natin. Hindi, yes?
Yung sa YouTube po pala, ang nakikita lang po kanina yung sa OBS Studio po. Etong sa PowerPoint po, hindi po nakikita.
Okay. Sige. Thank you.
Welcome po.
Wait lang ha. Nangangapa pa ako. Ay. So, yung kaninang nakita nyo is yung sa OBS. Delete ko nga to. Sige, wait lang. Window capture siguro. Sources. Sources kasi siya. Wait. Hanggang ngayon ba? Yun pa rin yung nakikita nyo.
Opo, ma'am, ganun pa rin po nakikita dun sa YouTube.
Sige, wait. Window, media. Media. Sige, wait. Video capture. Go.
Be,
Hindi, may tinitingnan ako. Naka-live na ako. Saglit lang.
Send money for free with PayMaya. Before doing this, ensure that
Hey, this is Leslie Samuel. And then I'm going to click on OK. Now, once I've done that, all of a sudden my screen is blank because I have no in OBS. I would rather monitors can see that as well. So, and single window that I'm going to come down here to Safari, because that's the browser I'm currently. This one I'm going to name Safari because that's the browser I'm currently using, and I'm going to click on OK. Now it's going to ask me which window am I trying to other option, and I want to show you that other option. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this display capture and click on yes, and then I'm going to add a window capture. So I'm going to go ahead and select window capture, and this one I'm going to name Safari because that's the browser I'm currently using, and I'm going to click on OK. Now it's going to ask me which window am I trying to display. I'm going to click on here, and every single window that I can right there and available. I am looking for Safari, so I'm going to come down here to Safari, start a blog, change the world, and click on OK. Now once again, you can see this little red line here shows you that it's going beyond this little window, and that's beyond what the viewer is going to see. So I'm going to go back to transform and fit to screen, and there we have it. Now it to trans and fit to scaring about that, it's just going to show under this little window, and that's beyond what your
Nasaan na?
that I can show is going to be right there and available. I am looking for Safari, so I'm going to come down here to Safari, start a blog.
Kailangan kong hanapin.
Hey, what's up everybody? Amo here. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to capture any content on your computer and share it with people on the internet. Presentations, tutorials, what have you, teach you how to add your webcam or displays of your choosing. Hit OK. It'll pull up this menu and you pick which display you want to show all the content from. If you don't have a second display or third display, I very highly recommend buying one. Link in the description below if you want to buy a very cost-effective one that I use in my studio. I'm going to choose display number 3. You can choose whether to have your capture or your cursor be seen while you're presenting. I like people to see my cursor. It's up to you. You can check this and turn it off if you want, turn it back on. Great. And there's the content on the screen. It's capturing everything I have over here, whether to have your capture or if you don't have a second display or third display, I very highly recommend plus button down here under sources, how to add your webcam if you want to be seen during the recording, all of this stuff in this tutorial, step by step. Let's go. So step number 1, let's just go ahead and pull in some visual content here to show the audience. Click the plus button down here under sources. It'll pull up this menu. Our first method will be called display capture. This will capture all content on one of your displays of your choosing. Hit OK. It'll pull up this menu and you pick which display you want to show all the content from. If you don't have a second display or third display, I very highly recommend buying one. Link in the description below if you want to buy.
Every time we prepare tag, hinahanda natin sila for a better future. Kulang sa pag-alaga. New PH Care Wonder Protect for
May naka-live pa rin ako ah. Naayos kasi ako.
This video is about OBS, not XSplit, and open up your display settings. After that, you're going to go ahead and scroll all the way down and jump into graphic settings, and that's going to bring this up. Now you want to keep this on classic app, so we're going to go ahead and leave that there. And then what you
Hi everyone, so my name is Andreas. Boarding on to have this, we need to go to system left corner, click on this Apple icon, go to system preferences. Now go to security and privacy. All right. So in the left sidebar, we need to find this one, screen recording. Click on that, and you should see this one, OBS. So we need to check this one to have the black screen gone, so we can screen record our screen. All right. And also, if you have problem with the microphone, just go to this one, microphone, and check this one as well. All right. So now we should go and open up OBS one more time. So just close this window. Open up your OBS software.
Ay, salamat Lord. Diyos ko Lord. YDG, RZAC, GWG. Scored. Hello, okay na class, sorry. Ang daming restriction ng laptop. I think nakikita nyo na yata yung screen ko sa YouTube. Tama ba?
Tama ba?
Ayun. Nakikita na nga. Ayun. Okay na class, sensya na. Ang daming restriction ng laptop ko. Hindi nakakapag-share pero inayos ko na siya. Ayan, ginugol ko siya. Kailangan ko lang palang i-change sa setting yung system preference. So, wait na lang natin yung iba. Ano lang naman, one lesson lang tayo ngayon kasi advanced na tayo. And meron pala akong extension for your assignments kasi 'di ba may mga enrollment pa. So pwede pa kayong gumawa ng mga assignments nyo, yung mga comments ganun. Hanggang April 19. Hanggang April 19 pa. And then wait na lang natin yung iba kasi supposed to be nasa 150 tayo, no? So, 80 na dito. And then sa YouTube, 47. So, 130. Ayan. One topic lang naman tayo today. And ganito na, sa Google Meet pa rin tayo magkikita. Pero naka-link na siya sa YouTube. So, ganun na lang yung ginawa ko. Ayan. So, we'll start in a few minutes. And, isang topic lang tayo today. So, maaga na naman kayo makakauwi. Maaga na makakauwi. Pero nandito lang naman kayo sa bahay nyo. Okay, pakisabihan na yung iba na okay na. IB. Kunin ko kaya yung login nito. Ayan. Para sa mga hindi makapasok. May panata. Okay, sige. Pwede naman ng panata. 15 minutes lang naman yun. May recorded naman. Pwede naman kayo bumalik agad. And naka-ECQ naman tayo. Sa bahay lang naman. Home 1PH. Sino yun? Hindi ko kilala yun. Ayan. Okay lang na magpanata kayo. And then balik na lang kayo if hindi pa tapos. So start tayo ng 7:45. Alam ko nakikita nyo to. Pero wala naman ako tinatawag. International business. Kaya hindi nyo kasi hindi nila ma-access. Wala. Bahala. Ay, kayo na lang hindi ko mahanap yung iba. Ayun, kayo na lang mag-send. Yan. So, may academic tayo, no? Academic break. Pero, hindi naman madadaanan yung class natin. Hanggang April 5 ata balik niyo. Yan. And then, ang meeting naman natin is 19. Okay, we'll start now. So, may mga panata, okay lang. Balik na lang kayo. Then I'll record this one. Check ko kung nag-share ba siya. Okay, nag-share naman. Sino yung pumasok na home? Parang may home na pumasok. Sino Sino yun? Home HO. Pumasok kanina eh. Ay. Yaman na. So, mag-start na tayo, guys. Slideshow lang ako. Ayan. So, check ko lang muna kung nakamute ako uli eh. Ayan, nakamute. Buti na lang, chinek ko. Okay. Naka-zoom in. Yun. Naka-zoom in nga. Tayo tayo dyan. Okay na siguro. Pa-check na lang. Okay na siguro. Pa-check na lang. Okay. Okay na class, no? Sa YouTube and sa sa Google Chrome. At least alam na natin next time. Grabe. Ang hirap ng online class. So, let's start. Check ko lang ulit kung baka nakamute ako. Okay. Okay na po ba? Nakikita na po? Thanks, Ed, sa pagsabi na naka-zoom in. So, yan. Good evening, class. We will discuss tonight the theories of international trade. So, our learning objectives here is to understand the traditional arguments. Second is to review the history and compare the implications of trade theory from the original work of Adam Smith to contemporary theories of Michael Porter. And third is to examine the criticisms of classical trade theory and the alternative viewpoints of which business and economic forces determine...
Ma'am?
Yes?
Wala pang presentation sa email mo.
Wala. Business and economic... Hindi ba naka-share? Okay. Sige. Ayan.
Okay na po.
Thank you. Yan. So, first, we need to discuss the evolution of trade theories. We will discuss the Mercantilism, absolute advantage, which is the classical theory, comparative advantage, factor proportions trade, international product cycle, and new trade theory. We will learn also about the national competitive advantage. So, here in Mercantilism class, it happens during the mid-16th century. So, ang palitan dito ng pera is through gold and silver. So, ang theory kasi na to, ang gusto lang natin sabihin dito is yung mga export, kailangan nating i-maximize. Dahil kapag mas marami tayong export, mas nagkakaroon tayo ng discount, 'di ba? O yung tinatawag na mga subsidies. And then if i-minimize naman natin yung imports natin, magle-less yung cost natin sa mga charges like tariffs and quotas. So ang flow lang dito, class, is sobrang maraming restrictions. So kapag maraming restrictions, napipigilan yung paglaki ng isang trade or business trade. So, ang tendency, hindi masyadong nag-grow yung economy ng isang bansa if ito yung naging process ng trade nyo, mercantilism. And then, if we need to define mercantilism, it is about a theory that nations should accumulate financial wealth, usually in the form of gold. Forget things like living standards or human development. So, para sa kanila, diba, sobrang tagal na to. It's 16th century. So, ang tinuturing talaga nila na valuable product is gold. So, kung marami kang gold, marami kang pera. And then, binabypass na nila yung mga standards, okay, kahit mahirap ang buhay nila, basta marami silang ginto, basta makapag-ipon sila ng gold or silver, okay sa kanila. So, dinidiscourage din nila na mag-import ng mga product dito during 16th century. Then next, we have the theory of absolute advantage, which is developed by Adam Smith. So, nangyari naman to during 17th century. Capability of one country to produce more of a product with the same amount of input than another country. So, ito is more about production. So, kailangan lang, okay, makapag-produce yung isang country ng mas maraming product compare sa another country. So, yun yung tinatawag natin na absolute advantage. And, if ang country nagproduce ng goods na mas efficient, ibig sabihin, mas madami silang napoproduce, okay yung kanilang advantage kaysa sa mga countries na hindi nagpo-produce ng mas madami. So, trade between countries is therefore beneficial. So, we assume that there is absolute balance within the nations. So, tingnan natin yung theory na to. So, dito, it destroys the mercantilist idea since there are gains to be had by both countries party to an exchange. Dito kasi, 'di ba, dinidiscourage yung import sa mercantilism. Dito, gusto nilang mag-import kasi the more na nagpo-produce sila ng product, mas nagiging efficient sila. So, parang more on export and import. So, it's a two-way. And then, number 2, questions an objective of national governments to acquire wealth through restrictive trade policies. And third, measures a nation wealth by the living standards of its people. So, it's an opposite of mercantilism. Kasi nga, sa mercantilism, nakafocus lang sila sa gold and silver. While this one, mas efficient pag mas productive or mas maraming napoproduce na inputs. So, syempre, pag mas maganda yung living standards ng mga tao, ibig sabihin, mas maganda yung economy nila. So, ito siya. So, ito naman yung tinatawag nating graph. Parang versus natin dito yung rice versus cocoa. Okay? And, ito naman is based on the production possibility frontier. Ayan. So, meron tayong 5, 10, 15, 20. Tapos, pag cocoa naman, ayan, pataas din siya. Ibig sabihin, kahit rice or cocoa, ang gusto nila is mas mataas yung nagiging production nila throughout the time. Ayan. So, pareha silang nasa 20. So, next, so, ito yung mga resources required to produce tons of cocoa and rice. And then, ito yung production and consumption. Tapos, ito yung products with specialization. And yung consumption, after Ghana trade 6 tons of cocoa for 6 tons of South Korean rice. And increase in consumption as a result of specialization and trade. So, here makikita nyo, class, di ba? Production with specialization, halos parehas lang. Kasi sa Ghana, ayan, country yan sa Africa, 20 tons, sabihin na natin tons, di ba? 20 tons of cocoa yung napoproduce nila. And then, sa South Korea naman, yung rice na napoproduce nila is 20 tons din. Ngayon, punta tayo dito sa consumption. Mas madaming nako-consume yung Ghana ng cocoa. So, halos pantay lang sila. Increase in consumption. So, sa Ghana, ayan, ang consumption nila is 4.0, sa South Korea 3.5. Pero sa rice, 1 lang yung Ghana. So, ang hindi lang pareha sa kanila is tong total production. So, sa Ghana and consumption. Then, yung resources required to produce 1 ton of cocoa. Ayan, mas madami kailangang manpower sa South Korea. 40. Compare mo sa 10. So, tama ba yung absolute advantage? Dapat ang tinitingnan lang ba is yung production? So, check natin. So, here, ito yung mga example na mayroong absolute advantage. Yung maramihan talaga mag-produce ng product. Ito, Saudi oil. Diba? Tonelada. Then, ito, Brazilian coffee beans. Ayan, marami din mag-produce yan. May absolute advantage sila. Also, the Canadian timber. So, next is the theory of comparative advantage. So, this one, si David Ricardo naman yung nanggaling sa kanya yung theory and ano yung mga factors na nandito sa comparative advantage. Number 1 is to extend free trade argument. Number 2, efficiency of resource utilization leads to more productivity. So, ito naman, kasama naman dito yung resource utilization. Kasi kanina sa absolute advantage, wala naman silang pakialam kung how much yung naging resources, 'di ba? Para magkaroon ng products or tonetonadang produkto, 'di ba? Or hindi siya naging measurement. Dito kasama na pati yung utilization.
Please drink water.
So, third, you should also import even if the country is more efficient in the product's production than country from which it is buying.
This is a reminder. Please drink water.
So, before class, 'di ba, dun sa absolute advantage, dapat hindi na tayo mag-import dito sa country na to. Kasi mas madami naman akong napoproduce eh. Bakit kailangan ko pang mag-import sa inyo? So, dito, titingnan mo, marami kang tinitingnan na factor, pati rin yung resources na ginagamit mo. So, sabihin na nating marami kang mag-produce, diba? Pero, bago mo ma-produce yung ganyang product, ang dami mo kailangang gawin. So, mas longer yung hours ng production, tapos mas maraming tao na i-hire ka. So, dito, tinitingnan comparatively yung efficiency ng isang bansa rather than yung pag-i-import, rather than yung focus dun sa production. And then, ano pa yung mga advantage na ito? It makes better use of resources. Kasi syempre, hindi batayan dito kung gaano karami mag-produce eh. Kailangan i-check mo din. Baka naman marami kang mag-produce pero sobrang costly na ng product. Or maraming nasasayang na resources, 'di ba? So, next is trade is a positive sum game. So, here naman, ito yung theory of comparative advantage. Ayan. So, ito si Coco, ito si Rice. So, kung kanina is nag-meet sila, 'di ba? Dito hindi eh. Halos naging parallel na yung line. So, dun sa rice, naging directly na sila. Kasi parehas na lang tinitingnan. Okay. Yan, kino-compare natin kung sino yung pinaka-efficient dito sa dalawa. It's either yung cocoa ba or rice? Ayan. So, i-check nyo to. Itong 15 kasi yung resources sa baba. Pero ang naproduce niya is 20. Ayan. While ito is 10, napoproduce niya is 5. 10 lang yung resources niya. Pero 5 tons na ng cocoa na po-produce. So, ito, kung kanina, dun sa production and consumption, dito na sila nagkaparehas. Production with specialization, ayan, may mga differences na sila between the two. Tapos, check natin yung resources. Ito yung kanina na medyo nakita ko talaga as in yung difference niya. Dahil, 'di ba, sa Ghana, 10 resources lang yung kailangan mo to produce 1 ton. Sa South Korea, 40. Pero yung production na kaya niyang maibigay, yung South Korea, 2.5. While yung Ghana is 10. Pagdating naman sa product with specialization, although, ayan, naka 15 siya, tapos yung South Korea, ang daming resources, wala pa din siyang output, diba? With the specialization. Then, yung consumption ni Ghana, mas malaki pa, 11.0. Kaysa kay South Korea na 4. And then, increase in consumption as a result of specialization in trade. So, mas madami yung kay South Korea. Pero ang parang ang hindi lang ako, ang abnormal lang dito is yung product with specialization. Kasi ang dami niyang resources to produce 1 ton of coca, pero pagdating sa production with specialization, 0 siya. 'Di ba? So, ito naman yung mga comparative advantage. So, ito, United States movies. Ayan, mga Hollywood tickets, 'di ba? If ever na mamimili din tayo ng movie, chine-check natin kung yung movie ba na papanoorin natin is worth it ba compare sa mga ibang movies. Kasi halos parehas lang naman ng resources yung gagamitin natin. So, saan tayo mas magiging masaya? 'Di ba? So, next is yun, mga Bollywood movies. Ayan. So, ito, textile. So, sa textile naman, parang nandun tayo sa comparative advantage ng ating textile. So, sa textile kasi, pag makikita nyo, 'di ba? Kadalasan nandun yan sa mga divisoria or kaya naman, I think sa Commonwealth Market meron yan eh. May mga textile products dyan. Talagang kino-compare mo side by side yung tela na bibilhin mo. Kahit sabihin mo pampareha siya ng kulay, okay, may nagkakaiba pa rin talaga sa texture. And kung para saan mo siya gagamitin. So, electronics, 'di ba? Hindi lang tayo basta dahil madami, okay, dun ako bibili kasi mas madaming supply to. So, sa comparative advantage, tinitingnan talaga natin kung ano yung pinaka-key factor ng isang product. Kung saan tayo magiging beneficial. So, ang assumptions and limitations natin dito is, it's driven only by maximization of production and consumption. And 2 countries engage in production and consumption of just 2 goods. So, limitation, dalawa lang ba dapat yung i-compare natin? Hindi pa pwedeng madami. So, only resource, labor, that too, non-transferable. So, wala din consideration of learning theory. Kasi, kailangan din natin siyang ilagay doon. Okay? Yung, kumbaga, yung training, yung cost of training na mangyayari if ever na may labor tayo. So, basically, parang lahat dapat ina-assess natin sa theory na to. Pero ang hindi lang niya na-covered is yung transportation cost. Sabihin na nga natin, okay, mura siya, 'di ba? And then maganda din yung quality. Pero ang layo naman pala ng pagbibilhan natin, 'di ba? Saan pala? So, kailangan pa nating gumastos ng importation fee, 'di ba? Kaya naman mga additional charge sa shipping. So, makikita nyo rin yun sa Lazada. Minsan kapag price kayo ng parang lowest to highest ata na price sa Shopee or Lazada, kita mo yung mura. Tapos, na parang nabalita yun sa TV, like, ang mura niya nabili daw. Pero, nagulat siya, mas mahal pa yung product sa shipping. Yun pala, sa ibang bansa pala, galing yung supply. So, kailangan check din natin yun. Hindi lang basta efficient and low cost, kailangan ma-check din natin yung shipping cost or transportation cost sa mga products na binibili natin or tinitrade natin. So, next is the factor proportions theory. So, this theory is devised by Heckscher. So, it means export goods that intensively use factor endowments which are locally abundant. So, for example, import goods made from locally scarce factors. So, ito namang factors endowments na yan. It can be impacted by government policies. And, meron tayong tinatawag na relative advantage. So, kabaligtaran siya ng absolute advantage dito. So, sa theory na kasi na to, class, is you need to produce and export those goods that require resources that are abundant and thus cheapest. So, para tayong nag-outsource dito. So, kung ano yung mga cheap na mga products or raw materials na malapit sa atin, yun yung kukunin natin. And pwede tayong mag-import ng mga goods sa other countries or sa ibang lugar if short yung supply natin. So, ang example nito is si Australia. So, marami siyang, ang laki ng niya, diba, ng mass ng area. Pero small yung population niya. Kaya, nag-i-import sila for labor. So it's a very open country, Australia. And marami silang hinikayat ng mga foreigners or FW na magtrabaho sa kanila. So, next is the factor proportions trade theory considers two factors of production. Number 1 is by labor and number 2 is by capital. So, sabi dito, if a country that is relatively labor abundant, which is capital abundant, should specialize in the production and export of that product which is relatively labor intensive. And then capital intensive. Vice versa. Ayan. So, if labor abundant ka, kailangan mag-specialize ka sa pag-export ng mga product na labor intensive. If capital abundant ka naman, ang specialization mo is capital intensive. So, parang sabi lang dito is proportion. So, if labor abundant ka, labor intensive. If capital abundant ka, capital intensive. So, it should equal relatively. Okay? So, kabaliktaran siya ng absolute theory. So, next we have the Leontief paradox. So, here, if the factor proportion theory be used to explain the types of good the United States imported and exported. So, ang method dito is input-output analysis. So, ang findings nito, the US exported labor-intensive products and imported capital-intensive products. Findings were the opposite of what was generally believed to be true. So, paano ba to? Diba, ito yung findings. So, ang controversy, the US, yung US kasi believed to be capital intensive. Okay? Kasi marami silang capital diba? They're so rich. And then, ang ini-import naman nila is labor intensive. So, lumabas daw, okay, sa findings nitong using the input-output analysis na nag-export pala sila ng mga labor-intensive products and then nag-import sila ng capital-intensive products. So, sabihin kasi ng paradox, parang unexpected, diba? Unexpected findings or result dun sa vision mo or sa ine-expect mo. So, ganun siya. And then next is the product life cycle theory, which is this theory holds a company that will begin by exporting its product and later undertake foreign direct investment as the product moves through its cycle. So this product life cycle theory is very related to the FDI because here you should know the direction of flow of imports and exports, and the globalization and integration of the economy makes this theory less valid. So, for example, okay, ito yung United States, ito yung advanced countries, and then developing countries. So, here in the developing countries, diba, Philippines is one of this category. And then, kung mapapansin nyo, we are more on the import sides. Which is true naman kasi marami naman talaga tayong ini-import, diba? At least everything talaga ini-import natin from other country. So, tingnan lang niya lang yung ref nyo, diba? Check nyo, made in ganito, made in China, made in Finland, made in USA. Okay? So, yung mga gamit nyo sa bahay, diba? So, konti lang talaga yung mga locally made supplies here in the Philippines. And as you can see, for developing countries, export is katiting lang talaga. While the other advanced countries, okay, sobrang malaki, parang ano lang, same, pero mas mahaba lang yung import side. So, mas madami silang ini-import rather than exports. Pero halos same lang naman with the production and consumption. So, here in the United States, you can see that they are more on exportation. So, which is relevant and true because kahit saan ka rin magpunta, makita mo yung product ng US, 'di ba? Kahit sa Asia, may McDonald's. So, kahit nasa Europe ka, very evident ang culture ng USA. Then, they import din naman, but it's too little compared to their exports. So, next is the product cycle and trade implications. So, here we use the emphasis on technology's impact on product cost. We need to explain the international investment, and the limitations for this one is it's most appropriate for technology-based products kasi the product life cycle approach is hindi mo maisili categorize yung maturity. Pag sinabing maturity, yung pag-decline ng sales. Kasi 'di ba, pag technology, laging nag-change yung mga specs, 'di ba, yung usage. So, may kita mo talaga kung saan yung start, which is the beginning of the product, and then yung innovations, 'di ba? So, kailan magde-decline. So, maganda sana tong theory na to, pero yun nga, sa bawat theory kasi may iba't ibang products ka din na pwedeng i-relate. So, most relevant to products produced through mass production. So, here we have the new trade theory. So, in industries with high fixed cost, so the specialization increases output and the ability to enhance economies of scale increases. Learning effects are high. These are cost savings that come from learning by doing. So here in new trade theory class, typically, it requires industries with high fixed cost. Dahil para sa kanila, competitors may emerge because of first mover advantage. So, ang sinasabi lang dito is kapag meron silang sinimulan na trade, okay, they will set it into high fixed cost para magkaroon lang ng few competitors dun sa trades. And then, yung role of government, nagiging important siya and significant to this theory. Kasi, syempre, kapag sinabi nating pera, diba? Kapag mas malaki yung pera na nire-require sa trading, mas magdaming regulations and strict yung trade policy na generate ng government. So, next is the theory of national competitive advantage. So, here, okay, si Porter yung nag-attempt ng theory na to. So, ginawa niya naman to for the reason of a nation's success. So, I think kilalang-kilala nyo na yan si Porter, no? Madali siya, lagi siyang nababanggit sa mga management's book. So, kung naalala nyo yung Porter's 5 forces, ayan, may nakakaalala ba? So, yung Porter's 5 forces, diba, yung bargaining power of suppliers, new threats of new entrants, threats of substitute, bargaining power of buyers. So, ito yung mga industry rivalry na tinatawag. So, here, Porter studied 100 industries in 10 nations. Kaya nakapag-postulate siya ng competitive advantage theory, which is based on the nation's 4 major attributes. So, ano-ano yun? Number 1 is factor endowments. So, ginamit din niya yung factor endowment theory. Next is the demand conditions. Third is related and supporting industries. And the firm strategy structure and rivalry. So, ang sinasabi dito ni Porter, ayan, nag-develop siya ng diamond. Actually, lagi niya tong ginagamit yung parang diagram na pa-diamond. Ayan, lagi niya tong ginagamit sa mga discussions niya. So, sabi niya dito, success occurs where these attributes exist. So, kung lahat na to is meron yung trade or yung business, magiging successful yung isang company. So, more or greater the attributes, the higher the chance of success. So, dito, for Porter, this is the definition of factor endowment. So, it means that the nation's position in factors of production, such as skilled labor or infrastructure necessary to compete in a given industry. So, for him, malalaki talaga yung factor ng isang production. Or tinatawag natin na skilled labor. So, kaya nga tayo nag-aaral, diba, para magkaroon tayo ng skills. So, if ever na ma-hire tayo in the future, mas magiging hireable yung maraming skills or mas competitive rather than the other candidate. And then, next is basic factor endowments and the advanced factor endowments. Ito, hinati niya yung, kinatagorize niya yung dalawang factor endowments. So, ang basic factor endowments, ito yung present in a country. More or less mga, independent variables or uncontrolled. So, hindi naman natin nakokontrol yung natural resources, climate, geographic locations, and demographics. So, it is initial advantage that they must be supported by advanced factor to maintain the success. So, ano yung kailangan i-support? They must be supported by. Ito na yung advanced factor. Ito yung people, companies, government, and are more likely to lead competitive advantage. Kasi sila talaga yung nag-work together. Ito kasi yung mga to, nandyan na yan. Okay, pagkapanganak mo, may natural resources na climate, geographic location, demographics, wala ka nang magagawa dyan. Pero sa pag-hire ng people, meron sa mga process ng company, ayan, government regulations na pwedeng maipasa, pwede yan maging competitive advantage. And if a country has no basic factors, it must invest in advanced factors. So here, kung makikita nyo, diba, maaaring sa isang country, wala itong mga basic factors na to. Hindi maganda yung natural resources nila, diba? Kasi sobrang developed na ng country, puro infrastructure. Yung climate, hindi rin maganda. Kailangan, mas mag-i-invest sila dito sa people. So, for example, you have a very highly skilled type of people. So, pwede mo siyang i-export sa ibang country na nangangailangan. So, here in the Philippines, lagi tayong number 1 in terms of business process outsourcing. And these are the advanced factor endowments. Ayan, communication, skilled labor, research, technology, and education. So, next is the demand condition. So, what is demand ba? So, demand kasi, it creates capabilities and sophisticated, demanding consumers. So, demands impacts quality and innovation. So, syempre, pag nagde-demand ka, hindi ka naman nagde-demand kung meron na, kung may existing na product or services. Or kung hindi mo siya na-experience. So, kadalasan okay din yung demand kasi it creates resourcefulness and uniqueness to every individual, and it leads to quality and innovation as well. And In the related and supporting industries, creates clusters of supporting industries that are internationally competitive and must also meet the requirements of other parts of the diamonds. Ito na yung mga organizations, diba, na nagtutulungan. So, they have their own groups as well. And they also have this firm strategy, structure, and rivalry. This is part pa rin ng Porter's theory. Ayan, the national competitive advantage. So, sabi dito, long-term corporate vision is the determinant of success. Management ideology and structure of the firm can either help or hurt you. And presence of domestic rivalry improves a company's competitiveness. So, syempre naman, 'di ba, kapag may mga kakompetensya tayo or may rivalry na tinatawag, nagiging mas competitive yung isang tao or isang individual. And here, ang sinasabi dito is kung ano yung culture ng isang company, nakaka-affect talaga yun sa performance in the future. And then here we have the determinants of competitive advantage in nations. Yan. So, the predictions of Porter's theory. So, in Porter's theory, it should predict that the pattern of international trade that we observed in the real world, and countries should be exporting products from those industries where all four components of the diamonds are favorable. So, mas dumadami yung mga kailangan nating i-consider na factor. 'Di ba? So, kanina, isa lang. Dito, dalawa. And then, dalawa. Tatlo. Tapos ngayon, naging 4 na. So, which is good naman kasi we need to study din talaga every inch, 'di ba, of the sides before we conclude which is the best theory. So, here, the implications for business is that there are location implications which is connected to the dispersed production activities to countries, and the first mover implications, and the policy implications as well. So, here in competitive advantage, parang naano niya lahat natakal niya lahat. So, absolute advantage, comparative advantage, and national competitive advantage. So, summary lang to ng mga pinag-aralan natin, diba? So, pag sinabing absolute advantage, it is the ability to produce something more efficiently than any other country can. So, ito, production lang yung pinagbabasehan natin kapag sinabing absolute advantage. While the comparative advantage, it is the ability to produce some products more efficiently or better than the products. So, it is connected with the resources versus the production. And here, in the national competitive advantage, yon pinag-aralan natin yung Porter's theory, which is a combination of factor condition, demand condition, related and supporting industry, and firm strategy, structure, and rivalries. So, here is the Global Competitiveness Report. As of 2008 lang yan. Yan. Ibig sabihin, kapag mas mataas yung score mo, mas maganda yung takbo ng economy mo. So, I think that's all from my side. Thank you so much for listening. So, I'll stop na ng share screen for our Q&A. Ayan. Stop ko lang yung recording. So, this week, we focused on the international trade theory. And for next week, ang magiging topic natin is the business ethics and CSR. Pero papahapewan lang natin kasi separate siya discussion, 'di ba? So, may ano yan eh, may subject talaga kayo dyan. So, yun yung magiging next topic natin. And, meron pang isa. I'll check first. So, meron akong bibigay na consideration para sa extension ng deadline. Since may mga bagong enrollees and naka-lockdown yung Metro Manila, 'di ba? Actually last week naka-lockdown na yung iba sa Manila area, and then sumunod lang yung buong NCR. So kailangan natin magbigay ng consideration for all that what's happening, 'di ba? Sa mundong to. So yun, may nakikita kasi ako ng mga nagko-comments pa. So monitors, wag nyo na lang muna bawasan ng score, 'di ba? Kasi alam ko naman na nag-usap tayo kasi I'll be extending the deadline until April 19 pa. So you can comment pa with no deduction on your points on the next meeting. And then I'll tackle about our international business and trade business plan. I think naibigay ko na yata yung copy. Tama ba? International business plan template. So, yun. Naibigay ko na yung copy sa inyo. So, after ng mga conceptual theory presentation, ayun, i-discuss ko yung paggawa ng business plan. But first, I will discuss yung binigay ko sa inyo na copy. So, binigyan ko kayo ng mga groups, okay? And then, kailangan equal yung pagkakahati. So, magdadagdag lang kayo ng isang member if lahat ng member is may equal number of members na dun sa particular na group na yon. And then, your next assignment for the next meeting is that gagawa kayo ng introduction, okay, dun sa specific na company na binigay ko sa inyo. So, ang binigay ko sa inyo is local company muna. So, 'di ba, namili kayo ng international company. So, hindi muna natin yung itatackle. Okay, wait lang kayo sa further announcement ko. Pero ang uunahin kasi natin is yung local company. So, naibigay ko na yon sa monitors ng group. Okay, dun sa separate group chat namin. So, if hindi nyo pa siya nare-receive yung local company nyo, ayan, you can tap your monitors on my class. So, on our next meeting, which is April 19, kailangan makagawa na kayo ng introduction for your business plan. So, ito yung mga questions na dapat nyong sagutan or dapat dun sa ipapasa nyong paper. So, actually, hindi siya assignment eh. It's quiz na. Kasi na-explain ko pala na wala naman tayong multiple choices na quiz kasi it's more on the application. So, tinutulungan din namin kayo na gumawa ng paper pakunti-kunti kasi if ever na ipapapasa ko sa inyong lahat to on the finals, mangangarag kayo, 'di ba? So, during the meeting, ang pinagawa sa amin is that for every meetings, may ipapasa kayong paper output, which is yun na yung magiging quiz nyo. So, here, you have the introduction muna. Kasi, you cannot do the executive summary if hindi pa tapos yung buong business plan. So, isi-share ko lang ulit tong Word. So, ayan. So, ito yung pinasa kong template ng International Business Plan. So, syempre, ang gagawin nyo is yung title page nyo. So, ibig sabihin ng title page, hindi yung mismong company lang yung ilalagay nyo doon. 'Di ba? And then, yung body of the written output, executive summary, lalaktawan nyo yan kasi you cannot do this executive summary if hindi pa tapos lahat ng business plan. So, here in the introduction part, since meron na kayong mga local company na nandyan, so, ito yung pag-focusan nyo. So, ang sabi dito, the second section of the International Business Plan is the introduction, where the focus is on the new global initiative, product or service to be offered, the country to be entered, the rationale for selecting the country, identification of existing trade barriers, and identification of sources informations. So, 'di ba, ang binigay sa inyo is mga local company. So, it's a business plan na makakatulong sa mga local company on how can they have an international business plan. So, paano ba sila magiging makakapasok sa global trading? So, eto, gagawa kayo ng mission of the new venture. So, since gagawin nyo na siyang international. So, ito yung mga kailangan yung sagutan. What are the reasons for going into business? Why will the company be successful in this venture? What development work has been completed to date? So, syempre, you will need to research on this one based dun sa company na ibigay sa inyo. And what is the company's product and or services? Describe the products and services including patent, copyright, and trademark. And where will be the business be located? Is the building leased or owned? And what office equipment will be needed? Will this equipment be purchased or leased? So, if ever may mga existing na, 'di ba? So, pwede nyo na rin yung ilagay. And if ever na may mga proposals kayo, like, gusto nyo nga kasi maging global, 'di ba? So, saang country nyo gustong i-venture? Kasi, yung mga company na yan, since local sila, baka may counterpart sila sa ibang bansa. 'Di ba? Parang nag-aano na sila, nagbo-boom na sila sa ibang bansa. Pero if hindi pa, pwede kayo mag-isip ng country na magiging new venture. So, yan. So, i-describe nyo rin, may gusto ba kayong baguhin sa product, 'di ba? Like, gusto nyo ba dagdagan or ganun pa din. So, ito naman, ang discussion natin dito is more on existing trade barriers and sources of informations. So, kung saan yung napili yung country, 'di ba? May mga trade barriers and may mga policy under that. So, pwede niyo siyang ilagay dun sa global business plan nyo. And then, ito yung mga, ano lang naman to, parang guided question siya na kailangan makita dun sa paper nyo. So, what are the major economic, technological, legal, and political trends? So, ito more on pestle analysis to. So, ito naman, more on financial aspects, 'di ba? Industry sales over the past 3 years. So, growth in this industry, ilang taon na ba siya? Okay, yung company na yon. And how many new firms have entered this industry in the past 3 years? So, ano ba yung mga products na nilaunch during the 3-year period? Sino yung mga competitive? So, ano yung mga competitive products or service? What are the strengths and weaknesses of the company? So, SWOT analysis to. What are the trends occurring in the specific market area? What is the profile of your customer? So, how does your customer profile differ from that of your competition? So, ito lang muna yung inyong quiz. And you will submit it on April 19. Ayan. So, magkakaroon tayo ng Google Drive. Din mga monitors, parang nagsabi na rin ako. So, dun sa Google Drive, dun din nakalagay yung link ng mga outputs ng quizzes mo, which is itong paper. Kasi, sinisimulan natin siya ng maaga para hindi siya naka-pile up. Para may scrutinize natin kada paper and then hindi rin kayo mag-cram at the end of the sem. Ayan. And then, meron tayong mga consultation hours. So, may kita nyo dun sa binigay kong link. So, may consultation hours tayo ng 10 p.m. onwards. Ayan. So, yung consultation naman, if ever lang na may gusto kayong i-consult for your paper, pero hindi naman, sabi nga ni Dean, hindi naman siya nangyayari, parang ganun. So, parang emergency cases lang siya. If talagang hindi na kayo makahabol sa mga lessons. So, eto lang yun, class. So, kailangan nyo lang basically i-research yung background ng company. So, huwag kayo masyadong maratel dito sa mga tanong. So, it's like background lang ng company. So, it's very, ano yun?
So, sa isa pong grupo, isa na lang po yung magpapasa or lahat pa rin po kami?
Isa lang. Isang papel lang kayo. Isang company lang kasi kayo eh. So, magtulong-tulungan na kayo dito kung paano nyo siya i-breakdown. Oo. So, magiging quiz nyo kasi yun on our next activity. So, balik ganito pala yung magiging grading system. Yung pinapa-comment ko sa inyo, magiging assignment siya. And then, etong paper, based sa meeting nga, itong paper, magiging quiz siya. So, hindi tayo na, parang hindi na kayo magkakaroon ng additional burden like, kailangan nyo pang i-memorize to, ganyan. Kasi, hindi naman to makaka-affect sa board exam nyo. Kailangan lang talaga na magkaroon kayo ng output. Okay? Kasi ito yung tinitingnan. After end of the sem kasi ipapasa to sa CHED. Ayan. And then, ewan ko, mamimili ata si din ng magandang business plan. And then, may mga presentation kasi, parang ganun. So, ipe-present sa online conference, parang ganun. And then, may mga judges to ha. Ayan, kung makikita nyo dito. So, para siyang, alam ko kasi, ang ginagawa nyo ngayon is accounting research. Yung accounting research, iba yun. Research yun. So, parang thesis yun. Itong business plan, isa siyang important aspect if magve-venture kasi kayo sa business in the future. Kaya siya tinuturo. So, for example, naging, self-practitioner na kayo, gagawa kayo ng business plan. Ayun eh. Kasi, importante siya eh. Para magkaroon kayo ng mga license, ganyan. Hindi nyo pa ma-recognize ngayon. Pero, yun. Gagawa kasi kayo ng business plan if ever may venture kayo na ibe-business in the future. Ganun. And maging independent practitioner kayo. So, eto, yung finals nyo kasi, parang more on presentation siya. Ayan. So, hindi lang ako yung mag-grade sa inyo. So, parang mag-invite ata si Dean. So, si Dean, isa na siya doon. So, ako din, magiging panel din ako ng class ni Dean. So, parang ganun. So, may mga, may judges or panel. Ayan. And then, nandito na rin yung guidelines if ever na gusto nyo makita. So, for example, ito, nakalagay naman yan ng introduction, internal analysis, yun yung mga parts na kailangan yung i-research, and then i-analyze. So, yun, kaya siya naka-group. Hindi siya by individual. Pero yung assignment nyo, individual yun. And then, ito, yung quizzes nyo is, yun, parang hindi na rin kayo masyadong ma-hassle. Ginawa siyang by group. So, is that clear, class?
Yes po.
Okay, so, I expect your quizzes for introduction paper on April 19. Ayan. Then, may utang pa pala ako sa inyo yung calendar pala kasi nagmo-move lagi. So, kailangan ko pa siyang baguhin. Pero, ayun, from time to time naman, fix naman yung schedule natin. Nag-advise naman ako ahead of time. Like, today, our next meeting na is April 19. Pero, yung isa kong block is nauuna siya. Ganon. So, if ever din na hindi kayo maka-attend dito, pwede rin kayong umattend dun sa kabila. Pero sila kasi hindi sila pwedeng umattend dito. Ayun. Kasi para dito, parang hindi kasi talaga sila makaka-attend dito kasi nga may conflict sa schedule nila. Pero kayo, if ever na hindi kayo maka-attend dito, pwede kayong umattend dun sa Saturday class. If ever lang na hindi kayo naka-attend dito. Pero mas advanced kasi sila kasi every week talaga kami nagkikita. So, yun lang yung gusto kong i-reach out din tungkol dun sa, sabi mo, nagpanata ka. Ikaw, kung gusto mong pumunta dun sa next Saturday, or mahina internet mo, pwede ka naman pumasok din. Or kaya, manood ka na lang din dun sa natin, sa recorded video. So, I think we're done. Ayan, ito lang muna yung in-explain ko kasi ito lang yung gagamitin natin na quizzes nyo next week. So, yun nga, background lang to ng study. So, research nyo lang yung website ng company, nandun na siya. Ayan, so, if ever naman na alam nyo yung company, mas okay. Pero hindi nyo ata masyadong kilala yan. Pero, dapat yung kilalanin yan kasi yan yung mga company na listed sa Philippine Stock Exchange. So, kumbaga, if ever gusto nyo rin mag-venture sa stock trading on the next years, ayan, para meron kayong additional knowledge sa mga background ng companies. So, I think we're done. Ayan, paiwan ulit yung mga monitors. Ayan, may 15 minutes pa naman ako with your time. So, thank you so much, guys, and have a good day. Bye.
Thank you po, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you po, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Ay,
you.
ma'am. Thank you po, ma'am. Comment na
yun?
rin po ba sa YouTube po?
Oo.
Okay po.
Magiging assignment nyo na kasi siya. So, yun na yung,
Okay.
nyo.
Pwede na po mag-comment today, parang ganun po.
Pwede naman, pero yun pa rin yung link, ini-edit ko lang siya. Kasi tinatanggal ko yung mga dead air. Pero pwede ka na mag-comment.
Thank you po.
Thank you din. Thank you, Muhammad.
Thank you po.
Thank you po, ma'am.
Sige. Ayan, nandito na kayo ulit. Pero, stop ko muna yung live kasi baka marinig tayo. Habang nanonood pa. Ayan. Stop